even the fans at the foul pole were like, that ball's fair. Like they're all
That ball
pointing, they're like,
seemed fair by 15 feet. That was the thing that was crazy about it. Since I'm not a conspiracist, I'm just going to assume that either it was incompetence or there was some optical picture from another angle to suggest, well, you could look at A and think it's a homer and look at B and think it's not. So therefore the call on the field stands.
hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post. My name is Ryan Sampson. He is the star of the show, Joel Sherman. Today is Monday, April 21st. Joel, the Yankees should have won 7 in a row if not for a crazy, horrible loss on Saturday. But let's be real, 6 out of 7 ain't bad. They played really good baseball against the Rays. They swept them. They took 3 out of 4 against, they swept the Royals. They took 3 out of 4 against the Rays. And they're heading into Monday against the Cleveland Guardians team, playing some pretty good baseball all around. We're going to break down the Aaron Judge foul ball home run that should have been, maybe not. And then we'll talk about Max Fried's no-hitter taken away. We'll break it all down here on today's episode. But before we get to any of that, Joel, how you doing?
I always appreciate you asking, Ryan. So why don't I do this? How are you doing?
I'm good. I had a nice Easter with the family, ate a lot of food, and I'm enjoying this Yankees baseball team because I think you would appreciate this. From what you've told me and how I've seen it so far, they play some damn good defense all around, and it's just a fun brand of baseball, in my opinion, that this Yankee squad plays.
It's again early. Like one of the things I said I spent my Easter watching Clay Holmes pitch at Citi Field. And one of the things I did think was, man, he'd help the Yankees a lot as a starting pitcher. After watching Devin Williams, he also might help him as a closer. But it was interesting. If the Yankees just had a guy who could give them 5 or 6 regularly and a chance to win. Anyway, that's probably for later in the show. You said something that I said to somebody yesterday, if you've played 22 or 23 games, you're about a game or two away from playing a 7th of the season, or about, say, what every NBA playoff series just looks, right? Or NHL. Like in other words, we want to make a grand thing. The Timberwolves beat the Lakers in Los Angeles. They're now going to win the series, right? And then the Lakers will win game 2. And they'll be like, wow, that was and Julius Randle will be playoff Julius Randle instead of the guy who pushed, back on defense and kind of helped deal with LeBron in game 1. And they hit all their 3-pointers. I watched the game last night. Houston and Golden State played. It was like a rock fight. Like it was, Steve Kerr said in the post game afterwards, and I agreed, it was like a game from 1997. And now the next one maybe is 105, 100. And so it's a 7th of the season. There are certainly more good than bad. Do the Yankees, I believe, still have the best record in the American League as we wake up here at the beginning of a new week? It's Monday. Nobody write in. I know the week technically starts on Sunday. But the work week of Monday. So everything is by comparison. I think the American League, again, is the weaker of the 2 leagues. Yeah. And so because of that, the Yankees are playing a generally good brand of baseball with some foibles that they're going to have to solve as the long season goes along while staying mostly healthy. You play the Judge or Fried game health-wise. What happens to this team if you move that Jenga piece out? But that's probably true for a lot of teams. And nearly a 7th of the way through the season, as if we were playing a 7-game series and this was the first game, the Yankees have had a really, really good first game of a 7-game series.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can't play perfect baseball, but at the same time, 14-8, like you said, best record in the AL currently. They also lead the league, Joel, in run differential in the American League, and they also lead the American League in runs scored. So there's all positives there that we can note from this team. A lot of it, I think.
Can I say one thing on it?
Yeah,
Ryan. It's just they all count. I'm not trying to dismiss it, but those first 3 games against Milwaukee have distorted the overall Yankee profile of what it is. And especially because Milwaukee's pitching has rectified since then. They've been one of the better pitching teams. And so I do think we can now say that since the torpedoes haven't blown up over and over again, and the Brewers have remedied themselves, that the Brewers missing 8 of their 13 best pitchers and sending out a weakened Nestor Cortez for that series suggests that that was distorted
Yes.
of what we thought, what it is. They all count. At the end of the year, we don't say like, oh, Aaron Judge hit 52 homers, but he hit 10 against the White Sox. They all count. So I'm not trying to discredit. The games count, the stats count. But if you take the Yankee hitting line since then, it kind of looks like last year's hitting line, which, by the way, is good news because last year's team had Soto and this year's team doesn't. So anything that looks like that, plus better defense, plus better athleticism, would be a better overall group of position players. But I do think the numbers are distorted by those first 3 games.
They totally are, and let's not forget they are missing Giancarlo Stanton for all these games as well. Their second best power bat, you can argue, and I'm sure when they get him back, they'll welcome that addition, and that could help the offense.
But to be fair, Ben Rice has played,
correct,
and he wouldn't have if Stanton was there. And you could like Giancarlo Stanton as much as you want, he probably wouldn't have done everything Ben Rice has done.
Correct.
Everything. And Grisham wouldn't be playing. Like the 2 guys who have. Like there's been 4 guys carrying the offense, right? It's Grisham, Rice, Goldschmidt, and of course Judge. And 2 of them don't like if you get a gift you don't see coming, I get it. Like it would all feel better, especially righty-lefty balance, maybe if Stanton was there. But if Stanton was there, Rice might be in the minor leagues. And right now, you could make a case if we're doing a 1/7 of the year all-star team in the American League, is Ben Rice maybe your DH?
I know. It's going to be a fascinating conversation too, Joel, when Giancarlo Stanton does come back. How do they make that work with Rice and Stanton? And how do they get him more at-bats? Because he definitely needs those at-bats. But we'll get there. I do want to start with first pitch, though. Yesterday's game, Sunday, provided 2 storylines that we should definitely talk about. Max Fried losing his no-hitter in the 8th inning after a score change 2 innings later from an error to a hit. And then Aaron Judge, a ball that was clearly a home run after multiple replays, even after an MLB review, still called a foul ball. Judge strikes out later in the at-bat. Amber gets tossed, rightfully so, being angry. I got to start with the Aaron Judge one, though, Joel. I don't think I've seen, I know it's recency bias, but I don't think I've seen anything that egregious where a ball was clearly a fair ball, was a home run, and Aaron Judge, let's say if he falls shy of 50 home runs and ends up with 49 this year, that 50th home run was there in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. 49 homers is still quite a season. I'm not going to get caught up in if something ends in a 0. Now, if he finishes with 69 homers, then we should have a long conversation. I was blown away it wasn't overturned. I'm not sure. Like this is going to be part. I think we want to talk about this later, of playing in a minor league ballpark, which is, did you have as many replays as you would traditionally have? Because they have to have clear evidence, and there's obviously at least one angle of the ball going into the trees, and it feels like, unless that's an optical illusion, and you could prove to me that that's an optical illusion, that would be pretty clear that that was a home run. But did they have something maybe even more down the line that was like, this is questionable? And of course, the foul pole, I don't think, is quite as tall at Steinbrenner Field as it is in a traditional major league park, including Yankee Stadium. So it's kind of part of the issue of you're playing baseball in a couple of minor league stadiums, and there's probably going to be some ramifications for that. It felt so that was one of those ones where I think Boone's anger ultimately became well directed, not at the home plate umpire, because I do think that was strike 3, but he immediately goes to the third base umpire because he's like, because if the third base umpire calls homer, that's a home run, right? Because if that's the only replays we have, I can't imagine it's getting overturned the other way. And that must be just one where the third base umpire, you know what happens, you know, the system that's used is ball, turn, find. He must have never really found it.
No.
And so thought, oh, I'll get it corrected on replay anyway. And I think whichever way he would have called it, I think it ends up being.
It felt weird too, because even the fans at the foul pole were like, That ball ball's fair. Like, they're all
That ball
pointing, they're like,
seemed fair by 15 feet. That
yes.
was the thing that was crazy about it. And so there must be, I want to give the, like, I don't think the replay reviewers are sitting and thinking, how do we screw the Yankees? How do we screw Aaron Judge? So I have to think there is some optical illusion that at least another angle would say, we have this one that looks really clear, but this one looks like maybe it went around it or whatever. So since I'm not a conspiracist, I'm just going to assume that either it was incompetence or there was some optical picture from another angle to suggest, well, you could look at A and think it's a homer and look at B and think it's not. So therefore the call on the field stands.
And it's part of the human error of being an umpire, right? So this is the other part I want to ask you about with Max Fried. The scoring change. It originally was ruled an error. Ground ball to Goldschmidt, one of the fastest players that comes up for the Rays. They rule eventually that it would have been a single. He would have beaten it out. Do you agree that the rule changed? The man had a no-hitter going into the 8th inning. And you see him, which is, again, something bizarre. I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime. A guy coming out who thinks he has a no-hitter in the 8th inning, and all of a sudden the broadcast starts with Michael Kay going, well, we have a score change here. There's a hit that happened 2 innings prior, and we're changing this now, and now Max Fried no longer has a no-hitter. I don't know, Joel. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Well, let me give my friend Mike K credit because I'll give you a little inside baseball at the New York Post. I'm at the Met game, but I want to say the 6th inning, our editors reached out to me and said, if he throws a no-hitter, could you write the no-hitter, which will be the bigger baseball story of the day instead of the Met game? And I said, sure. So now I plug in to like watch. And so I heard Michael say when was it Magnum? Magnum
So.
gets the clean hit. He said that he has broken up the one hitter, which I thought was a great line by Mike. The you know you if the viewers fans don't know, calls get reversed regularly during a game. Like we have a change in the calls, change the 2nd inning error on the 3rd baseman to a base hit. And then the other thing is sometimes you'll get a day or two later league review of a play. And I think, again, I don't know anything. I ultimately wasn't at the game. There was a hit and I stopped covering that game. I was at the Met game. But I wonder if the league called and said, take another real strong look at this. Because the last thing the league wanted to do is 48 hours from now on review, if Fried has the no-hitter or the Yankees have a combined no-hitter, say, well, you know that thing everybody wrote and broadcast that the Yankees had their first no-hitter since blah, 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 and they raised their no-hit for the X time. It didn't happen. Because I do think ultimately that's a base hit. There's no way the Yankees are recording an out on that play, and it would have taken above average effort to do it. And if it's above average effort at that point, you have to say it's not, it was a hit. I think the guy probably got caught up in the moment. Oh, it's a no-hitter. Let's see a clean hit. And then, of course, you get to the 6th, and you don't have a clean hit, and you probably have to say, I should have called that one. I think ultimately the right decision was made, and that it just looked inelegant when you're deciding in between innings when the guy's about to run back out on the field for, was it the 8th?
Yep.
That he gives up the hit to lead off, that what you've been watching, you haven't been watching. But I thought it was a hit.
Yeah, and it was also weird just because the way the dugout reacted, and then I think Fried talked about it after the game where he said, yeah, it made me a little bit easier to now I could pitch a little bit more to contact because I felt more comfortable that the hit was there now. It just was a weird day yesterday at Sunday. I mean, obviously it was a good Yankees win, but just between the judge and the Fried stuff, I was like, that wasn't a great look for MLB officials yesterday and scoring and officiating. It's a lot of complaints right now across the baseball league with officiating. I think that's general in every sport, honestly. Everyone has issues all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. All right, Joel, let's move over to do up. So, three things here that I wanted to ask you how important these have been to the Yankees winning these games lately. And the three things are we talked about it just briefly before the team defense. We saw some spectacular plays yesterday and over the weekend. Jazz Chisholm diving play in center field. Trent Grisham makes an incredible catch, throws it to second for a double play on the tag up. And that's one part aspect of this team. Trent Grisham's slugging has been incredible. A lot of Yankees fans, and I wanted to ask you about this narrative here, but the Trent Grisham part, they're wondering why the hell Trent Grisham wasn't playing in the playoffs. And I think this is a lot of revisionist
Boy,
history.
you're talking about Monday morning quarterback.
Monday morning quarterback.
You had last year's Trent Grisham, who all the people who say that, ask them in real time, did you want them to tender a contract to Trent Grisham in the offseason or not tender a contract to Trent Grisham? I get it. Everything would. Now, on the other hand, Alex Verdugo just went 4 for 5 for the Braves in his first game back. Why did the Yankees have that guy? Like, look, you could play this game forever. Why did the Yankees have the guy, like when Jason Dominguez plays well? I always hear, why didn't Dominguez play? Well, I don't know. He's hitting 150, but the day he plays well, you tell me he should have played left field in the postseason, right? The more defensively deficient guy who's hitting 150 this year against playoff pitching. That's what we should have had. I think it's Monday morning quarterbacking. Yes. I think the problem was having Alex Verdugo on your team to start with, not really kind of like finding it out. And look, we're going to play this game soon, right? Which is, why is Bellinger playing instead of Grisham, right? Like, I mean, if that's what's going to continue to happen, and the answer is going to be because Cody Bellinger's track record is far better than Trent Grisham. We've played one game of the 7-game series of the season. Or I would ask any of your Yankee fan friends, you got to bet your life, and get it in a 50-point bucket of what Trent Grisham's final OPS is this year. So you could pick 1,000 to 1,050, 950 to 1,000, 900 to 950, 850 to 900. What bucket do you think it's going to fall in? Now, maybe he, changed some stuff. He's clearly in better shape this year than he was last year. He's playing more, so he's in a rhythm. This is also a guy who batted under 200 the last 3 seasons in well over 1,000 at-bats, like 1,500 at-bats. So maybe this is going to be either a breakout year or an aberration year. But if I set the over-under at 775 for his OPS for this year, would you go over or under? If you go under, that means he's probably going to have about a 550 OPS the rest of the year. Right? To
average it out, right?
Right. Like, so by the way, value is when you do things.
Correct.
Right? What the Yankees needed right now is for Ben Rice and Trent Grisham to be good. And those two guys have been good. I doubt they're going to be this good unless maybe Ben Rice is the second coming of Aaron Judge, which is like, wow, we didn't see that coming. And all of a sudden, he was a great historic hitter. Maybe Ben Rice is going to be 1,000 OPS guy. I would say probably not. I would say probably not on Trent Grisham. I'm going to say that every Yankee fan hated lazy Trent Grisham. Why doesn't he play hard last October? Nobody, zero, were saying, what's a good idea? Why isn't Aaron Boone thinking about what he should be thinking about with the better condition and better mentally positioned Trent Grisham for April 2025? Why can't we transport that guy to today? I kind of think it's Monday morning quarterbacking.
100%. 100%, Joel, and I think you hit it spot on. And I was one of those people who did not like Trent Grisham, nor did I understand why he got tendered a contract. But I immediately take back what I say because Trent Grisham has been incredible to start the year. So the three things the Yankees
timely,
very
right?
timely.
The
guy steps in. He's not a starter every game, but when he steps in, he's made an impact when he's in the lineup
on both sides of the ball.
Both sides of the ball. So Trent Grisham slugging. Yankees team defense, and Max Fried. Yankees, listen, this is the guy they signed. They're hoping to pair with Cole. I know you've said that before, but the Yankees are 5-0 in his starts this year which it feels like it's been very important for them to get that start every single time. He may not be an ace in some writers' eyes and a lot of people's eyes, but for the Yankees, he's been their ace, and he's been that shutdown guy for them to win every single game when he goes out there to start.
Well,
So those
I
are the three
mean,
things, I wanted to
what
ask you about.
what is the definition of an ace? If it's one of the 30 best pitchers, because there's 30 teams and everyone's got to have a number one. Well, he's clearly one of the 30 best starting pitchers. I don't think it's that difficult to make an argument he's one of the best 15 or even maybe one of the best 10. I mean, there's been a pretty consistent, excellent starter for a long time. I mean, the Yankees didn't make him the highest paid left-hander in history just because they had some cash laying around. The track record is pretty good. And his value this year, you pointed out one of the things. He has to be win day, the day that the way they're set up now, and they've won all 5 of his starts. It's like why Rodon pitching well the other day and deep has value. Rodon and Fried have to give them long winning starts, not just winning. Like the Yankees have a dangerous situation with the Will Warren and Carrasco starts that they're praying for 15 outs. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Like if they could get 15, that would be great. Well, that's 12 outs for your bullpen twice a week. And I keep pointing this out, which is like the good news would be if Tyler Matzik ever came back or Jonathan Loaizaga ever came back. But those guys are one-inning relievers. And their bullpen is going to need multiple multi-inning guys, I think, for this at least until July 31st, unless they solve this. And so Rodon and Fried have to be good, and they have to be long start good, 18 outs or more. And like Fried has really, especially these last couple of starts, has really honored that. It is an ace in every way. He's pitching excellently, and he's pitching deep. And he's, again, value is what you bring when you bring it. If Luis Gil and Garrett Cole were in this rotation and Schmidt was in it from the beginning, then you obviously would want all of this from Fried. But the value of it, that's why I actually think when you vote for most valuable player, you have to think about value.
Absolutely.
Not just best. Like what Fried is doing isn't as valuable as what someone might do in the Dodger rotation. Like where there's, though the Dodger rotation is starting to get beat up again also.
Correct.
I'm trying to think of a rotation. I mean, that's the thing about the Yankees is like you can get myopic. But, I mean, look at what's going on with the Orioles.
I know.
Right? I mean, they might have made a complete booby trap signing of Charlie Morton, whose ERA is like 12 or something like that. At this point, he's 41. This might just be a disaster for them. At this point, they've got a lot of injuries in the rotation. Boston has got a lot. And so what Garrett Crochet is doing for Boston is very Fried-like, right? Boston has it. Crochet's doing. So I'm kind of wandering here, but I'm agreeing with your point.
Yeah,
The
value.
The value of Fried is like as good as Judge has been, and Rice and Grisham and Goldschmidt and Luke Weaver. I actually think Fried's the most valuable Yankee right now. He's certainly the most indispensable Yankee, and that's hard to say when Aaron Judge is on your baseball team.
100%, Joel. And that's why those three things, I would agree with you. Fried is definitely number one on my list of how important he is. Every fifth day, he's taking the ball, and they're winning those baseball games. Like, no matter where they're at in the season, it feels like you're comfortable giving him the ball, and it's refreshing to see. And yeah, the team defense, he's a part of that. He made a couple of nice plays yesterday. I know.
Oh, he's the guy I compared him to when the Yankees signed him, I always thought about was Jimmy Key, who was an athletic lefty with a lot of craft and completely unflappable, and really could field his position. I mean, Fried's got one of the better pickoff moves in the sport. He's a great athlete, not just a great athlete for a pitcher. He's a tremendous athlete. And so, yeah, he helps himself. It's interesting. The Yankees clearly have played better defense, but the beginning of the unwinding of the Devin Williams game is the throwaway by Cabrera at third base, who I believe made another error yesterday, right?
Yes.
In the game. And I want to say, I think Cabrera is a good defensive third baseman. You know, everyone's going to make some errors. but it was, and ultimately that's Devin Williams' fault that he can't overcome a singular misplay with a 4-run lead. But uh, they are a better technical team. They're more athletic on the bases. The play, again, 1/7 of the way through this season, the plan on how to pivot away from Soto has been really good, right? Fried is the big move. The general thought on the lineup, lengthen it, better athletes, better defense, did it. And look,
Cody Bellinger's game-winning catch at the end of the I think it was game
yes,
3 of the Royals when they
yeah.
sweep them. Let's be real, Joel, and Juan Soto is one of the greatest hitters. I understand. I don't think Juan Soto makes that catch in right field that Cody
Unless
Bellinger
he's
made.
playing really shallow, he ain't making that catch.
That
So
was a
yeah,
hell
no,
of a play by Cody.
that's now Soto might have hit 2 homers earlier in the game, so it might not have been a close game. Uh, yeah, I think that everything has worked really well. Pretty much, Bellinger's batting average and high strikeouts and what's ever going on with Devin Williams early in this season. But in general, their philosophy on how to pivot away from Soto has played out well to this point of the season.
100%, Joel. And speaking of Jimmy Keys and Max Fried, the lowest ERA for a Yankee in his first 5 starts since 1961 with a minimum of 30 innings pitched. Jimmy Key in
Oh, is that right?
1993 had a .93 ERA, 0.93 ERA. And Max Fried is 4th on this list behind Tommy John and Phil Niekro. And Max Fried has a 1.42 ERA heading into after his first 5 starts with the Yankees. So he's 4th on that list. Pretty impressive
Yeah,
list.
and for some reason he's always reminded me. I'm talking about pitching for the Braves, like that athleticism, unflappable, great athlete, defend your position, always did it. I look, I don't want to get lost in it. I think Jimmy Key is one of the most important players in modern Yankee history. He was one of the players. Again, there's fans your age, Ryan. I was the beat guy back when the Yankees were terrible in the late 80s and early 90s who don't know how bad they were. And they needed a sea change. And like the two people given the most credit, and they deserve credit, are Stick Michael and Buck Showalter. And I think lost in that is Bill Livesey and Brian Sabian, who ran the minor league system. And I think as players came over, even Paul O'Neill gets a lot more credit. He came in the same offseason as Jimmy Key. I would argue Key because of the tenor of how he played, which was Jimmy Key did not care that he came to a bad Yankee team. When Jimmy Key pitched, he expected to win the game. And he was really, really good for the Yankees in kind of on the field and also beginning to be like, I remember thinking watching Jimmy Key, because I had only known bad Yankee teams as their beat writer. I was like, this guy thinks they're good. And this guy thinks they should win on win day. And this guy would pitch the same game if 45,000 people were at Yankee Stadium in a playoff game, or if there were 5,000 people at Kansas City on a Wednesday afternoon. Like, he is not environmental atmospheric. He is unflappable. He is pitching his game. Anyway, I went on a detour down memory lane. I thought Jimmy Key is kind of an unheralded, very, very important player of where the Yankees have gone for the last 30, 35 years.
It's a great note from you, and I also think, again, that's where I value the Max Fried part of this, where they brought him in this offseason after losing Soto, and he just has been very refreshing. Maybe it's not Jimmy Key-esque, but he brings a certain, mentality and just way he pitches every single time he takes that ball. It's important for the Yankees, and they're
really important. He stays healthy and makes 30 starts for them.
Yep,
for this version
100%.
of the Yankees, like, it's very, very important.
It's very important. All right, Joel, I want to move over to Radio Irrational. It's the Devin Williams aspect. And this is my Radio Irrational fan take, and I want to throw this out at you. Listen, I think Devin Williams, we've seen his career ERA is not great in the first month of the season. It gets progressively lower as the season wears on. It's not been a good start for him with his Yankees tenure. Let's be real. I just think that you have a closer right now that can take the ball in Luke Weaver, and I think you can use him to be the closer for the next, I don't know, call it 2 weeks, and let Devin Williams work that 7th and 8th inning in high leverage situations to maybe work his confidence back or work on some of his pitches, because I just don't know if you feel great about giving him the ball in the 9th inning anymore. that was pretty bad Saturday. In the fact that I know it started with the error, but like you said, it's on him to finish that inning still, and he still couldn't get through it. It's not been good. And my radio rational take is, I think Luke Weaver should be the team's closer for the next couple of weeks until they can work Devin Williams back into that closer role.
I said to somebody recently, somebody said to me, it's funny, give me your hottest take on New York baseball, an executive from another team. And I said, on July 1st, Luke Weaver and AJ Minter will be the closers of their teams. And he said, what? And I said, I don't know. You asked for my hottest take. That's my hottest take. And look, I'll say this. If you're going to keep Williams in high leverage in the 7th and 8th, you probably should just keep doing this unless it becomes really impossible. Because the one thing Weaver does is, remember a couple of days ago, Boone uses him in the 6th inning to go after the top of a lineup. And his attack dog ability and his more than an inning ability in this bullpen. Again, everything is context. If the Yankees had their 5 healthy starters and were going round and round at 18 outs, where you got to get 9 outs a day instead of 12 or 15 or whatever Carrasco leaves on a regular basis, or what Will Warren left last time, where you had to fill an entire game pretty much. But Weaver's multi-inning ability, you're not going to use in the closer spot. So I think the attack dog in the multi-innings means I would still, if I were the Yankees, be trying to do that and fix Devin Williams and keep in perspective. Look, Devin Williams, if he had shown up here cleanly shaven, nobody would be talking about this. He did something that upsets the fan base and gives them a touchstone to go to. You're going to pitch like crap. Why? Like, I've got a stupid thing to say about life, whatever. It's, to me, I would point out, no relief pitcher in baseball, none, pitched better than Emmanuel Clase last year. I think he won he got Cy Young votes. Yes. That's how well he pitched. Do you know he is pitching worse than Devin Williams?
Yeah, it's been rough for him.
He's got 20 hits allowed in 10 innings. He's got an 8 ERA. I mean, this guy was, and we saw in the postseason, like Devin Williams giving up the home run to Alonso. Maybe is there a carryover to, wow, you're impenetrable, and all of a sudden or maybe he pitched pretty deep into October last year and he's done something. As I mentioned, Edwin Diaz is still kind of like tightrope walking, no 1, 2, 3 innings, pretty much, lots of walks. I do think that these are still, we're talking about 10 innings, about you've got to give it a little more. Devin Williams has a track record. Is it possible? Somebody said something interesting when an executive I respect said something interesting to me about Williams, where he offered some doubt when the Yankees made the trade. He said, I can't tell you how much easier it's going to be the closer in the NL Central in Milwaukee than it is to be the closer in the AL East with the Yankees. He said, like, teams just go to school on things in the way the NL Central does it. Besides the fact that it's better 1 to 5, it's a bunch of northeastern cities that really care about this pretty much, besides Tampa Bay, and it's just going to change everything. And he talked about teams literally. He said, if I were ranking which divisions pick up tips the best, he said, I would pick the AL East. He said, everyone's going to school on everybody else at the highest level. And there was this feeling that the Mets had Williams' changeup in the playoffs last year. So, I mean, is it possible that there's some, I don't know. You know what I mean? Is like, but I would say the track record is the track record. And when I ask, like, what do you think Trent Grisham's final OPS will be? I would ask you, what do you think Emmanuel Clase's final ERA is going to be? Do you think it's going to be in the 7s, the 6s, the 5s, the 4s, the 3s, the 2s, the 1? Like, you would probably at this point say, well, he had a bad enough start where now I'll lower it to the 3s. But to pitch to the 3s means it's going to pitch to the 2s the rest of the year, right? Probably. And I would still think that about Devin Williams, which is he's going to get on a run. of like 10 to 15 in a row where it's like lots of 1, 2, 3 innings, lots of strikeouts. And if they're wrong 15, 20 outings from now, they always have Luke Weaver.
Yeah,
And by
that's
the
that.
way, another good re-sign, Tim Hill has been really good for them
And
again.
they
And
signed him late.
been very, very helpful to the bullpen. Can I go down memory lane one more
Of
time?
course.
Because I don't know why I keep thinking about this with Devin Williams in New York. Does the name Xavier Hernandez mean anything to you?
Sounds familiar.
Okay. So again, we're going back to when I was a Yankee beat writer. There was an offseason, I want to say it was like 92 to 93, like that offseason, as the Yankees got a little better under Buck, and they didn't make the playoffs, but they won 80 something, and they pushed Toronto until September. I want to say it was that year. It might have been 94. The big offseason moves were Terry Mulholland. They traded with Philadelphia for Terry Mulholland, who was a very good lefty, you could not have pitched worse for the Yankees. He was terrible. And a relief pitcher named Xavier Hernandez, who, again, Stick Michael was a little savanty and ahead of his time. And I don't think Xavier Hernandez was even the traditional closer in Houston, but he had like low walks, high strikeout. There were things like Stick, even back 35 years ago, like really fixated on. They traded for Xavier Hernandez. And it became very, very obvious very quickly that the last place in the world Xavier Hernandez wanted to be traded to was the Bronx. And it poured out in everything, including his place on the field. And he started as the closer, and he was just terrible. And there are some players. Javier Vasquez has a wonderful baseball career, except for 2 stints with the Yankees. And Xavier Hernandez looked like he was going to be a certain kind of relief pitcher, and he came to the Yankees, and it just fell apart. I mean, and it was just the body language. People would say, wow, there goes a guy who does not want to be here. Like, he didn't like dealing with the reporters. He hated when the crowd booed. And believe me, the crowds weren't as big and booey then as they are now. And it did. And there's something in the resistance of seemingly this is the place he wants to be that I feel just like if I was reading the body language, it just feels a little like that, where as I go in this kind of mental muscle memory thing about like, oh, Max Fried reminds me of Jimmy Key. I keep watching Devin Williams and going, body language wise, this reminds me of this thing.
You're hitting a nail here, I think, with a lot of Yankees fans who notice it as well. There's something there with Devin Williams. I don't know what it is yet, and I think you're hinting at it too. I don't know if he wants to be here. Obviously, blowing up in spring training about the beard thing, like you said, the fans, whatever. But like that did happen. Like that is part of his Yankees tenure already. So him making a big deal out of that, and him not looking good to start, and the body language post game in the locker room when he's talking to reporters. I agree with you. That looks like a guy who looks like he's a little bit miserable right now in the Bronx and pitching in front of the Yankees fans. So
it doesn't seem like this. I kind of know. I think his first choice was probably to be a Dodger if he was getting traded. But like, I wonder if we gave him 10 choices, if New York would have been even one of the 10.
It's part of the aspect, right? When you're scouting players and you're trying to make trades, you would hope that they can be able to withhold and understand that, you're in New York, you're in the great, biggest fan base here. They're going to be hard on you. And can you withstand it and prevail? I don't know if Devin Williams, like you said, has that ability. We're going to see. There's still a lot more baseball to play.
I mean, he is super talented pitcher with a track record. And again, play the game. What do you think his final ERA is? It might end up being 4 something or 5 something. It might. I think it did for Xavier Hernandez, right? But I would still think it will probably start with a 2 or a 3. And that he'll be good because he's really good. He's really good. He isn't a flash in the pan. Oh, he did it for a year. It's a little bit like you want to see that second season from Luke Weaver
Yeah.
to know that it's not like Devin Williams' track record is so much longer than Luke Weaver's. And so you've got to give the season a little breathing room before you start putting a guy in the seventh or eighth inning, especially because of the way the Yankees are built. Weaver's value is, I think, greater as a pre-ninth inning, attack the best hitters, maybe give you more than 3 outs for this version of the Yankees.
And what's interesting about Williams is, as you were out at Citi Field covering a guy whose tenure did not go well with the Yankees in Sonny Gray and clearly did not want to be in New York. So you do make that wonder and connection, like,
no doubt. No
maybe
doubt.
he's
Sonny
just
Gray
another
is
guy.
a little bit like Javier Vasquez. Every place else he's pitched, he's been really good. So Sonny Gray is really good, and he wanted nothing to do with this place. And because I'll say this, is if you fight New York, Boston, or Philly, like you fight it, like you think you're going to bring down the rodeo bull, like that's you. You're going to lasso it. You're going to teach New York how to treat you or whatever. It's like, I'm not saying what happens in New York is right or polite. I am not here to do that, but it ain't changing. It's only getting coarser, louder, meaner in bad times. I wish it didn't. I don't think it's healthy. I think what the Met fans have tried to do with Soto, what the Philly fans did with Trey Turner, was ultimately like, it's your guy. Like if you and I worked with somebody and they were struggling and we thought they were talented, we wouldn't get up in their face and boo them. We try to support them and bring the talent out. Again, I know what the fan reaction is. We pay money. I get it. You're not doing anything illegal. The question is, are you doing something smart or dumb? Are you doing something good or self-defeating?
Yeah.
Are you doing something that encourages players to come here or discourages them? And so, and also, are you doing it because you think it's a good idea? Are you mob mentalitying it? Like, oh, the idiot next to me is booing, so I'll boo.
Yeah.
Like, I just, as somebody who, even when I was a fan in the way back, never thought to boo, I don't get it. I know how people hear it. You're telling us what to do as fans. I'm not telling you what to do as fans. As long as you don't do anything illegal, like do what you want. I'm asking a good for the team you support or bad for the team you support in Philly, Boston, New York, any place. But these are the places with the worst reputations and the loudest megaphones. Do you want to live down to the worst of the reputation or not?
And let's not forget, if Devin Williams is up for the challenge and performs well, this is going to be the greatest platform because the fans are going to get behind you real quick and they're going to be loving you and they're going to giving you all the love and sending you all the wishes and like you're going to be the man. Like Mariano Rivera's got, obviously he's the greatest closer ever, but like he's gone down as an idol to a lot of people because of what he did in that ninth inning every single time you gave him the ball. It's a matter of if you can perform on the highest stage. And I think Devin Williams' story is interesting, Joel, right? Because of what he did in the preseason, in the spring training, because that's never been done before with someone like him coming in as a high profile player in a high profile position. And he went to the owner's office and demanded you change a decade-long policy. So that's why it's very interesting where he is in this situation. It's still very early. Like you said, game 1 of a 7-game series of the season. We'll see how it plays out.
Things flip, right? Like,
yes.
What would all your friends have said about Trent Grisham 5 weeks ago?
Oh,
right.
Why is this guy tendered a contract? Why is he on the team?
And now it's like, why wasn't he playing instead of somebody last October so we could get in a time machine? John Wetland became an I can't believe how much I've done in the time machine today. My last year on the beat, literally the last games I covered as a Yankee beat writer, 95 division series against Seattle, John Wetland became unplayable under Buck Showalter. He didn't remember. Jack McDowell's on the mound to give up the hit that you see all the time to Edgar Martinez because he had lost faith in John Wetland. A year later, John Wetland was the World Series MVP, closing out games. So I know we get hardened into thought narrative, but there's very few consistents in sports. Things change a lot. And so and that's why it's always valuable to actually trust in talented players. And and work to create the environment where the most talented players could flourish. And at this point, beard, no beard, go to Housheimer. Like Devin Williams, incredibly talented pitcher. And I think the fan base probably has a choice whether to make this miserable for him and enjoy, like, oh, we made it miserable. Our team didn't win the World Series because of it, but I made him miserable, or not. And that's the people who are spending the money's choice.
Yep. All right, Joel, let's finish this up with Joel's notebook. We elaborated earlier with the Yankees playing in Tampa Bay at Hal Steinbrenner Field, obviously. It's not only the Rays, though. The Oakland, I shouldn't call Oakland, San Francisco Athletics now are playing in a minor league ballpark as well. You have two major league teams playing in minor league ballparks. We saw with the Aaron Judge home run foul ball situation. I feel like this could be a long-term problem for baseball, or is this, I don't know how to put it properly in context, but I just know as a fan, it's very weird to see these games being played in minor league ballparks. And I know you've talked about the schedule and how they've jam-packed home games for the Rays because they're worried about rainouts in the summer. It's just a weird situation overall. From your perspective in covering this game for so long, how are you reading into this with the fact that we have two major league teams playing in minor league ballparks?
I don't think we've even seen the breadth of the problem, because we don't know how these ballparks are going to play over the long haul, especially in summer, when we think that it will be uncomfortable, especially I think in Sacramento, to play outdoors because of the weather. We don't know what it will do to the field. We don't know what it will do to the baseball. And the problem with all this is it isn't a 2025 problem. The A's are playing there for at least 3. Where are the Rays playing next year?
I don't know.
I drove by the Trop when I was going to Bradenton in March. Like, aside from cleaning up outside, there was no work being done on that stadium. Opening day 2026 is now about 11 months away. Unless they're doing it under cloak of darkness, I'm assuming they're still not doing anything on that stadium. So they're either playing at Steinbrenner next year or someplace else. So there's only 30 teams, and 2 of them are in a multi-year swirl of not playing in a Major League Baseball facility. What happens if one of them makes the playoffs? What happens if Aaron Judge's ball, you don't have that angle on game 2 of a division series? What happened? Like really, playoff game? You're going to have a 10,000 seat stadium. You're not going to have to be able to have media in the traditional way because there's just no press box space to cover the game in a let's just call it the barest professional way possible. And we're certainly not talking about lap of luxury situations, just like what's the ability to cover it and cover it well, since in a 10,000 seat stadium, everybody who cares except for those 10,000 people are going to need another way to enjoy those games and know what happened. And so look, there was a hurricane, and I think they're making the best out of a hurricane. And if it was a 1-year situation, I'd say, hey, active nature, what are you going to do? You got to play the games, and this is a pretty good thing. They did a great job on Steinbrenner Field to make it major league capable. But let's not morph major league capable into major league. It is not major league. What's going on in Sacramento is not major league. And by the way, we saw that one, as opposed to the hurricane, we saw that one blowing in to town for 10 years in a bad ownership situation in Oakland. And, I'll believe that stadium's getting built in Vegas when I start to see some stuff happen. I still haven't seen those pictures.
Nope.
So let's see that happen. The ownership group in Tampa clearly does not get along with the local governance. And so there doesn't seem to be any kind of peace coming that will allow something to be built there. And I think that, as opposed to, say, Miami or Oakland or someplace else where MLB has some real doubts that a team could succeed, there is a huge fan base. I always encourage people, go look at the TV ratings for the Rays. People watch the Tampa Bay Rays. They're always top 10 local television, sometimes top 5. And so there's a lot of fans there. And I think that if you built the right stadium on the Tampa side of this, because there's, for the fans who don't know, there's a bridge that separates Tampa and St. Pete.
Yep.
That's problematic traffic-wise, psychologically, the whole thing. It's getting to Yankee Stadium from Staten Island.
Yep.
Like there's a lot, you'd have to do a lot of work, or getting to Citi Field from Staten Island. Lots of stuff to get there, and people don't want to make that trip. There's not public transportation. Like you could take the 7 out to Citi Field, or the 4 BD, like out to Yankee Stadium. And so, yeah, I think that the problem isn't being solved with a Band-Aid this year. It's going to be several years for both of these teams. And that's a bad look for a mega league like Major League Baseball to be in this situation. And I dare say that we will have multiple issues this year that you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
That are like, oh, look at how fast the ball gets through the infield in July and August in Oakland. It's like worse than turf. Or, hey, I know they're not playing a lot of games in July and August in Tampa, but they're not playing none. And that was the 14th straight day that they had a rain delay. And like the teams had to sit around for a long period of time. And so I don't even think we've begun to see the tip of the iceberg in year one of a multi-year problem for the teams and the sport. And one of them felt solvable for a long time, and one of them has felt like, hey, you got to do triage, I get it, to survive the 2025 season, but what about after that?
Yeah,
And
what's the resolution?
And the fact that we are in this situation with no clarity on one, and what I would still say is, show me when we actually have real clarity on the other. Yeah, I just don't, I love baseball. I wish it was going better. That's not, I'll cover what's in front of me. That's my responsibility. And that's not good. It's not good. Like to the point where you play the game of, oh, that's right, in a minor league stadium, you're not going to have foul poles that extend as far as a major league stadium, and that there needs to be major league standards, and you're going to lack them in a couple of places. I think some stuff is coming, and a lot of this is going to be self-inflicted wounds.
That's not great to hear. I agree with you, Joel. It's not Major League Baseball when I watch those games there. It feels like a spring training game when you're watching it. Yesterday was a blip, maybe, on, like you said, we could be seeing a lot more issues coming here in this summer and how these games are going to be played out down there in Tampa and also in Sacramento. Definitely interesting to watch continuing going forward. But Joel, that's a show. Yankees have Cleveland, and then they got Toronto. Some interesting games coming up. Both those teams are not scrubs. Like, I'm interested to see how the Yankees play against them, but hey, they keep winning baseball games and winning series. We'll keep talking about it here as always. And Joel, I cannot appreciate.
I think we'll be talking about it even if they lose, Ryan.
I know. Joel, you're the man. Appreciate you as always, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
All right, Ryan. All the best, and to everyone, thanks for watching.